I saw in some of your work you talk about psychedelics and psychedelic use,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
and the value of that
Yes.
in
Yeah.
getting people to be able to access and help solve issues that are inside of them, trauma,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Have you had experience with it?
I've done psychedelics in my past. I
Like
can't
to party or to learn?
to learn. So this was a long time ago. I was about 3 or 4 years into doing Tai Chi Chuan. I was doing it religiously in both senses of the word. I was doing it like hours every day. I was going to the
Really?
dojo 3 or 4 times. I was getting all the, where you're hot like lava and cold like ice and all those woo experiences and everything. And then something happened that sort of twigged me. So some people came to me, I was in graduate school, and they said, you've changed. What's different about you? You're much more balanced and flexible. And I realized, the Tai Chi is changing me. I'm so concentrated on all the wonderful, bizarre experience, and I'm not paying attention to how my character, my cognition, like how I'm showing up, how I'm comporting myself. That was being changed. Other people were noticing that, and that's been something I've been looking for. I keep looking for when somebody recommends a practice. Does it transfer broadly, deeply, and effectively into their many domains of their life? Does it percolate between different layers of their psyche? And so it's like, and I had a very good friend, and I won't out that person, of course, because of course these things are still technically illegal, but that's going to change soon too. And they offered to do magic mushrooms, and I said to myself, and this is explicitly how I framed it. I said, I want to go on magic mushrooms, and I want to do Tai Chi Chuan on when I'm high, because I want to know what it's like, what it feels like, what the phenomenology is like, because the psychedelics reduce your egocentrism, right?
Yeah,
and they open up that connectedness. You're falling in love with reality. I want to know what it's like to do Tai Chi like that. Because if I do, what I can do is I can remember it, right? And I can use that like a touchstone. And so what I can do is, right, I can practice, and I'll have this deep felt memory of what it was like, and I can keep calibrating the practice so that I can get into that state without having to use the drug. And so that's how I did it.
And was it helpful?
Yes. Yes. It worked.
Yeah,
that worked as a strategy. Now that brings me to something, like, so remember the processes that make you adaptive, make you self-deceptive.
Real quick. So it worked as a strategy in the sense it helped you get deeper, and then in subsequent experiences, you was able to still get deeper?
Yeah.
Because of that.
I can get to that state now in Tai Chi Chuan without having to be on mushrooms.
Dang, boy, you saving money. You know?
Yeah, well, and other things.
Yeah.
And other things. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't do it now if I wanted to, because I have Meniere's in my left ear. So
Meniere's?
Yeah, they don't know what causes it, but my inner ear can, and I can't talk about it too long because it can trigger an attack.
Wow, what a freaking crazy disease.
Yeah, it's a bad disease. My inner ear will suddenly fill with liquid, and I'll get the worst vertigo you can possibly imagine.
Oh, my buddy gets that if you say his ex-wife's name around him.
Yeah, that I can.
He'll fucking start running in a circle.
But psychedelics, right? Psychedelics, what they do is and I work with. I was Alex Benier. He's got his new book out, The Bigger Picture. I was on when he released it. I talked to people who do psychedelic work. And I read people like Robin Carhart Harris and others. The idea is, when you're dreaming, you're basically doing what psychedelics do. So the idea is, your brain is always taking a sample of information from the world, and it's trying to predict what. Like we've talked about this, right? Now you face two problems in that. One is you can do what's called overfitting to the data. You can get all locked into the patterns that are in the sample, but aren't in the world.
Okay.
Right? Does that make sense?
Yep, makes sense.
That's called overfitting to the data. You can also underfit to the data, which is you don't pick up on patterns that are in the sample that are also that are actually in the world. So there's two kinds of errors you can make. The problem you face is that they're in a trade-off relationship. As you try to solve one, you make the other worse. And so you're constantly caught between them. And so what you do, machine learning, like deep learning, these machines that are
AI and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Like yeah. So they face this problem, and what they periodically do is they will throw noise into the system. They will shut off half the nodes, or they'll put in static information, and what that does is it prevents the system from overfitting to the data. It breaks up the frame enough so that the machine will go to a wider framing, like we were talking about earlier. And it looks like that's what you're doing in dreaming. That's what psychedelics do. So psychedelics basically get parts of the brain that normally don't talk to each other to talk to each other.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It's like the in-laws dinner or whatever.
Something like that, yeah. And so the thing is, they have to be put in the right context, because when you're sort of unmooring your salience landscape, right, that could possibly lead to insight, or you could also rabbit hole and get into your own personal bullshit really, really powerfully. So, back in the 60s, people talked about set and setting. That's still true. You got to have set and setting. But you also have to have, two more S's. One of the words is multi-syllable. It's sapiential. That means having to do with wisdom. Okay. You need to set, if you're going to do psychedelics, you need to make sure you're doing lots of other practices that challenge your proclivity, your proneness to self-deception. That's what I mean by a sapiential context. And then, like how indigenous people, which they do that, they have the shamans usually, right? And you also have to have it in a sacred context, right? Where there's a context in which your altered states of consciousness are not just running around free. They have a worldview that can properly home them and integrate them in.
Yeah, I did an ayahuasca ceremony.
Right.
Man, it helped me so much. It was unbelievable.
Yes, it can.
And I'd been sober for a few years, and I'd done a ton of therapy, but I'd never been able to I couldn't adjust my perspective.
Right.
I couldn't adjust the framework that I was looking at this
exactly.
thing through. And when it helped me to the immense, I feel like it literally did 1,000 sessions of therapy in 2 days.
That's what the research shows. The research shows
unbelievable
if put in the right context.
And that's what we were in. I mean, we were in a place. They had a shaman. They had all these little light, like candles and all these.
There's a ritual context.
There was a lot of music that really put you in a special space.
Yeah.
Everybody was wearing white gowns and robes when we're in there.
There's a lot of symbolism. Yes.
Yes, there was a ton of symbolism. So there was a lot of like traditional like moments that we went through before and throughout the experience. It was like a 9-hour experience. And also like a day, there was this time where we would get up with these maracas or shakas or whatever.
Yeah.
Chakras. And we'd have to shake like these little thing with the sand in them.
Yeah.
And you'd have to shake them and do this like dance ritual. Like there was a lot of rituals.
Yes.
That made the whole experience more powerful.
And more transferable. So you can integrate it, you can transfer it, bleeds to different levels of your psyche, bleeds into different domains of your life, like I was talking about. That's exactly it. The problem with that now, too, though, is that's becoming
a business.
Well, it's becoming a business, it's becoming commodified, and an ayahuasca tourism is building up.
Totally. Yeah, like come on down here.
Have your experience that you can go back and tell your friends about, right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And there's some of the flowers, even there's like a sexy woman on the flower. Like, what does this have to do with it?
Yeah.